Hello, in this video I am going to be showing you how to make greensand, a good type of sand for casting aluminum and other types of metals. Greensand is really cheap and easy to make. So, with that in mind, let's get into the materials list. Things that you'll be needing to make greensand are bentonite clay kitty litter, a blender, play sand, and a small bowl and a strainer, and also something to hold water in. Since sand comes in pretty rough shape, you're going to want to put it through a strainer so you can get all the large chunks that'll make your greensand bad out of it. So what I did is I just ran it through a small strainer I got at Walmart for like $2, and as you can see, the thing left in there is pretty garbage. Now you don't want that in your sand, so what you just do is you throw that away and you take all the good stuff. The next step is to take the bentonite clay kitty litter and put it through a blender. You can get bentonite clay kitty litter at a cheap store, and basically it's like unscented kitty litter. It's only like $2, $5 maybe. I just took it from my parents, so it's pretty cheap. And you just pour it in a blender and turn the blender on and make sure it turns into a fine powder. There's going to be chunks left over, but you run that through the strainer as well. As the bentonite clay gets blended, it's going to create a lot of dust, so I wouldn't do this indoors or in a non-ventilated area because I bet it's not very good to breathe in. The next step that you have to do is to take the bentonite clay that you grinded up in your blender and put it through a strainer. The strainer has to be relatively fine, so I wouldn't use a very big strainer, just use the strainer that you use for the sand. And you pour it all in the strainer, you pick it up and you pour the clay into a small container, making sure that you don't let any of the big chunks fall in there. Again, I wouldn't do this indoors either unless you want to gas yourself, which probably isn't the best thing to be doing. All of the small pieces have been strained out, and what you're left with is the big pieces. Now you can take those pieces and put it back in the blender, or do what I did and just throw it out in your yard. What you're left with is a powder the consistency of like flour, although I wouldn't probably use it in a cake. It's probably going to kill you. But anyways, it's pretty fine and almost like dust. What I did next is I took a 9-to-1 ratio, 9 parts sand to 1 part bentonite clay. That means that it'll all get thoroughly mixed, and later in the video I added more bentonite clay, which makes it stick together better, so you want to mix it up really well as well. This is just a little part of me adding some of the extra bentonite clay that I mentioned earlier. Once you're done mixing, the mixture will change color, but it's not going to be like too sticky yet. That comes after you add the water. Adding the water is kind of a balance. You just add it until it feels like it's about right. It's about right when it feels like it's the consistency of just like wet sand, but when you grab it with your hand, it should clump up like a little piece of Play-Doh almost. So you just want to keep adding it until it gets like that. It's also important to stir as you add the water. So here's the finished product. I went ahead and made a lot, so it would just be easier for me to fill my big molds with it. But when you grab it, it kind of clumps up, and then you can kind of break pieces off of it pretty easily. That's pretty much its main characteristic. That's what makes it a lot easier to cast with. So thank you for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Leave suggestions down in the comments because this is my first video. So yeah, thanks for watching.